Hey guys, this is Ed from Mission Impossible, and welcome back to RetroGrade, where we rank Atari 2600 games. And this week we're going to be doing Atari prototypes and rarities throughout the years. We had some that we missed, and some things that we couldn't play because of the keyboard controllers. And so we got a bunch in here today. So let's get into it.
We got rarities, oddities, just
all kinds of
unique little odds and ends.
Yep.
And Star Raiders is the one we started off with this last week. It's kind of hard to put it in. I'm going to give it a B.
Okay.
Star Raiders inspired a lot of the games that I think were great on the 2600 from our experience playing them through the years as we were going down the years. And going now back to Star Raiders, you know, not to give it too much bias against it or anything, I have seen where this goes, and even on its own merit, the need to use the keyboard controller felt weird and kind of unnatural, and on top of that, it was also just impossible to shoot anything.
Right.
The aiming was very difficult, and so the game itself just wasn't as great a package as what would come later, but I also think in and of itself it was okay.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we tried to do with a lot of these, and that's kind of rough kind of going back, is that we tried to go by years so that we would kind of rank it in the context of when it came out. So that, you know, yes, we could rank it against Solaris and be like, oh yeah, well, just play Solaris instead. It's like, oh yeah, there's an advantage of coming way later. The keyboard controller is kind of a bummer. It's a little awkward if you're playing and having to do it.
I can say this with certainty: no matter what, if we could throw it on the screen at some point, but the keyboard controller itself goes down in like D, or even basic math, because that controller didn't need to exist. It feels like they could have made something better than that.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things that if you look at like the Intellivision and ColecoVision and even the 5200 and even the Jaguar, funny enough, they had this obsession, at the time with having a keyboard controller, numeric keypad, and it's just weird.
It has. I think the time since then has shown that just isn't the most efficient or fun way to play most games.
Yeah, having to have it on a second controller was kind of a bummer. The one issue is only having one fire button. That really, to be honest, that's my biggest issue with a lot of these. If they had a second fire button, you could go to a separate screen and then be able to navigate a menu.
Buttons. Yeah.
2 buttons would have made a huge difference.
Huge level of difference.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree.
That being said, Star Raiders is a great game. We didn't get to play it too much. I'm going to go a little higher because it is one of those things that if you look at it in the context of when it came out, it was pretty groundbreaking on what it was. So I'm gonna have to go higher. Obviously, it's a longer game. We could spend a long time on it. I mostly played it on the Atari 8-bit, but the 2600 version is actually pretty similar. But that being said, I think it's a good game. Go ahead.
I'm gonna say Sentinel will be an A.
Okay.
It's not an overly complex game, but it had music that didn't get annoying.
Yeah. It was cheerful, it was like unnaturally cheerful for the game.
Yeah, which was a little weird.
It was kind of funny.
And even though all of the shapes were like just strange geometries and things like that, it had a certain, life to it that made it feel like
character.
It had character, and it just felt enjoyable to look at and play. The levels were way too long.
Yeah,
and the bosses were in many ways both they could be too easy almost. They were a little, because all you had to do was get hit once, then take out the 2 middle bits and all the bosses were the same. Well, at least as far as the 2 that we got to.
Yep.
They were slightly different shapes of bulb or whatever in a line. So just
But it had a boss.
It did have a boss, which
and you think about it, a lot of the games, granted this is a later game, we covered this last time, but the problem is we realized that we couldn't really play it because we didn't have a light gun.
Yep.
And
so
as far as I know, this was the only 2600 game, at least so far, that we've used a light gun. And you know, we talked about crossbow needing a light gun.
Yeah, could have used one.
Yeah. But I thought it was fun to play. That would be one of the things. And
I would say that, and that's the reason I'm leaving it an A, despite its slight flaws.
Solid A for me.
But I had a fun time with that game. Yeah, I really did. 3D Tic-Tac-Toe, probably D. That game didn't need to exist and was confusing, and no matter what mode you were on, I bet the computer just knows better than you how the game works. You'd have to put in a decent amount of time to no longer have the computer have an advantage. Is my big issue with it.
I mean, because the biggest thing, I think the thing that makes that game tick is the fact that it's really hard to kind of see all the different dimensions and how things could work. If you're playing against a human, that would probably be a lot better. Because I feel like the computer automatically has a distinct advantage. Because it's one thing to look at a normal tic-tac-toe board. It's like it's very obvious on where you can move and all that. Whereas with this, you get caught up in moving a certain way and you miss like some diagonal that they're doing, and I feel like while it would be fun to play against another player, getting someone else to actually want to play that
it would be difficult
problem. I think, and that's one of the things. Is it fun? And I will say that this was written by Carol Shaw, who actually went on to write RetroGrade. Much better game. We'll be getting to that. I don't know if it's going to be next week or a week after, but they ported 3D Tic-Tac-Toe to the 8-bit system as well. It's virtually identical. It's one of those that I have had throughout the years, and it was one of those it was good, okay.
It's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in C though, just because it is. I would say that, you say it shouldn't have existed. Well, the one thing that is interesting is, it'd be really weird to try to do that on paper. You could draw I guess you could draw just straight on the screen, like 4 games going at once. And you could do that. You could do that, but it's, I think, a little bit better having the computer to be able to play against, even though I feel like it would be a real uphill battle to try to play against.
I also think that, I'm a proponent of just make things when you have the desire to. You don't necessarily need to wait for technology or your skill. Just do it, make something, and I can appreciate that with this. The other part of me, though, is once you actually got to 3-dimensional graphics later on, this seems like something that today you could make work on a number like the computer, or even several years ago it could have been on the 3DS, and it would have been great, or much better, because then it's an actual 3D space where you can visualize it.
I guess it is. I mean, if you think about it, it is 3D. So
it's as 3D as this could possibly be, but it's hard to look at for me.
Yeah, fair enough.
The 2600 just doesn't have the fidelity to make that make sense to me right away.
Sure.
And I just don't know that I would want to give it the time to have it make sense.
Sure.
That's my big concern with it, is just, could it be fun? Yes. How much time do I have to put into it before it is?
Right.
But which one? Brain games. Simon or Touch Me.
Was that one or Hunt and Score?
Oh, Hunt and Score was that one. Brain games was...
Codebreaker was Mastermind.
Codebreaker was Mastermind.
Yeah.
Hunt and Score was Match the Pictures.
Yeah.
Brain games was Simon Says.
Yes.
It was
Simon, not Mastermind. Yeah. You're right. Simon.
Okay. Sorry, there's a lot of games that are other games that are different.
Well, they all use the keyboard controller.
Yeah.
That was the...
They get a little fuzzy in the mind.
Now, I will say they could have done brain games with the controller. They would have just done up, down, left, right in a pattern versus pushing the button.
And maybe button even.
Yeah, and button. It's just funny that some of these games seem like they were using it as an excuse to use the keyboard
like
control.
They're retrofitted to make it work.
Yeah, and it seems like...
Which is interesting.
Almost like, okay, we have this peripheral we want to launch, and we want you guys to make games that use it. And it was kind of like, all right, we'll make some games that need numbers or something. And it just...
coincidentally, since I just brought it up, the 3DS is a really big one for that, in which the launch titles of the 3DS all made you turn on the 3D for a variety of portions, which eventually just wasn't a thing anymore, because it was, turn it on if you want it to look kind of cool. But it was a tough peripheral to work with, because it just made everything weird. And you had to plan around it, and if it hurt your eyes, you just couldn't play those games.
Right.
So...
Well, that was just kind of the same thing with the DS when they, it's like you need to use the stylus.
You always have to control
and it's like,
the stylus.
Can I just hit right or left or up or down? It's like, but just...
You could add things on with the stylus, and they eventually learned that, which is why later DS games and later 3DS games use it in a way that is much more... amenable.
Yeah, I feel like in some of those cases,
and this
give the player the option. It's like,
and that's
I have the same issue with the Wii stuff. It's like, can I just hit right to go to the next thing? No, you have to point and click at it, and it's just kind of annoying.
So I'm gonna put Brain Games at a B.
Okay.
I think that game was pretty solid for being a Simon game, and it was just very simple. It was straightforward, but it executed well, and that's actually the sort of thing that I could see myself returning to.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a simple game. Personally, I feel like I think one disadvantage we have of using it through emulation is we don't actually have the keyboard controller.
Which has the more obvious way.
It's a lot easier to kind of visualize.
Yeah.
On the keyboard, it's a little bit...
You gotta break your brain a little bit to make it work.
Especially when you're hitting the numeric keypad.
Yeah.
I gotta hit one.
Wrong
that's
numbers.
dumb.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I could have mapped it towards that, but then it'd be upside down.
It'd be way
all
worse,
wrong.
even.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say, real quick, rank yours, but as you're doing it and before you explain, I gotta say, Simon is still a much better name. We discussed this. Touch Me by Atari came out first. Terrible name. Hate that. Don't want to say it. Every time I've said it so far, I feel weird about it.
What's wrong with it? What's wrong with the name? Come on. It wants you to touch it.
Tickle Me Elmo was already kind of weird, right? If it was just called Touch Me Elmo, it would have no one would have ever...
Show me where you were touched, Elmo.
Yeah. No one would have put that in their store if it was called Touch Me Elmo.
You're probably right. I would imagine you're correct there.
Especially because children will change the order of words a lot of times, and if a kid just runs up like, Mom, I want Elmo touch me.
Yeah, exactly.
No, you don't.
No, you don't. No.
You're going to therapy, and I'm leaving this store and never returning. So,
moving
on. Brain games.
We're on Codebreaker now.
Okay, Codebreaker. Codebreaker is a solid C because it's Mastermind.
Right. So you like Simon more than Mastermind?
Well, in this instance, yeah.
Okay.
The reason that just being Mastermind doesn't work as well for Codebreaker is Mastermind is a game that you can play with someone else, or there's a million ways to play Mastermind. Simon is one thing that requires a peripheral of some sort.
Sure.
So whether it's through Brain Games or Simon or Touch Me or whatever, you have to have something to facilitate that activity.
Okay.
Whereas Mastermind is a game that I think originally was just
paper and pencil.
Yeah, one guy writes down 3 things or 4 things, and also the fact that it only had 3 instead of 4 numbers was kind of
there might have been an option though. I know there was like either 1 to 6 and 1 to 9. I know that was an option.
But we'd have to, of course, look into that. So, but at its base level, it is that. it just also was, it was fine. I just don't think it brought as much to the table.
Right.
It's not something I'd be eager to return to because of all the other ways you can do it.
Right.
And especially, that's the thing. As much as it is a little annoying, I think the requirement for the keyboard controller on brain games is a little bit more, I don't know, okay for me. Whereas for Codebreaker, I don't know, I don't want to have to buy the extra peripheral on top of the 2600 on top of the game to play Mastermind, a very simple game.
Right. Now, in some of these cases, like Star Raiders came with the controller.
Sure, yeah.
Works. But I'm not sure exactly on these. It's
a lot of them probably didn't, is my guess. Or at least some of them didn't. They can't have all come with it.
Yeah. I'm going to say, then if they did, we'd be flooded with keyboard controllers.
Swimming in them.
And we only have we've only gone through one or two. Yeah. So I'm thinking Star Raiders the only one that came with it.
Yeah.
But it really was not a popular peripheral because, seriously.
Can't say I blame anyone.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that was kind of neat with them, and we'll see that, I think, with the basic that needed it, is you actually had the ability, I believe, they had a slot on them where you can lock them into place to where you can make it one big controller.
Oh, interesting.
But,
useful
anyway.
for that one thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say Hunt and Score also gets a C.
Okay.
For me. Maybe I almost want to throw it in D just because of the simple fact that even though it worked well enough and it was fine, I think one thing that is confusing is there are, 9, 10 buttons? Or it would be 3, 6, 9, 12. 12 buttons. And all of these things come with 2 keyboard controllers. Right?
Well,
a keyboard controller came with 2 when you bought it.
Sure, I think so,
right?
yeah.
So, instead of having the simple thing of, all right, I'm going to push one of, say, 12 or 24 buttons and just have that flip over the card so that I don't have to, and then enter, all right, 1, 2 for 12, 1, 4. Awkward. Yeah, and especially
just use the joystick.
Yeah. At that point, use the joystick. But that's the thing, is, I am changing my mind.
Okay.
That one would have been perfectly fine and honestly easier with a joystick than trying to work at the way you did.
I would say that the one that really, I think, was good for that was Brain Games, as far as the keyboard controller, because theoretically, if you were playing an actual assignment that gets faster and faster and faster, which the modes we were on didn't do that.
Didn't get much faster. But
the idea would be you need to be able to have that muscle memory. I don't see it as being as tactile as a joystick.
Because there's, with a joystick, you could also mess up with an input and the controller might get confused and think you did it wrong.
Right. That is true. So that is one of these, at least, that I think
where I can accept that, using that for this makes sense. But for Hunt and Score, it was just a waste that made it harder to play.
Yeah,
I would say.
I think that, to be honest, these games obviously are games that, the memory game, I don't know if that exists. That was kind of a board game, I guess, not really an electronic game.
Yeah.
But the others were electronic games, and then they were made into computer games or console games. And I feel like it was almost like a checkbox kind of thing. It's like, well, where's your, this game? And it was like, well, we got to do a version of it. And I feel like at this point, granted, okay, so these are early titles. And that's another thing to keep in mind.
Sure.
Is when these games came out, they were looking for the games, like we talked about, like checkers. Why did they have checkers? Why do they have chess? Why do they have these games when you could just play the real thing? And it was because, well, why not? Why not have these things?
These are games.
Yes, and we need to have our version.
Games,
yeah, exactly. So, and that's something to keep in mind is, obviously these were early on because we're coming back.
Sure, it's just also, given that these are like the big chunk of the keyboard controller games that Atari made, the fact that it was early on doesn't fully take away from the fact that I see them and it's like, well, they didn't make better ones later. They
No.
never really came back to.
Well, but I mean, really,
hone the craft.
what do you do better?
Well, what I mean is just not necessarily make these versions of the games better, but just make games that actually would require the keyboard controller and all of those buttons and be fun with that.
Sure.
And maybe they just tried and they were like, oh, that's actually not possible. But
right.
you know, not to say that they didn't try. That's just the thing that makes me score them as low as I am in these ways, is just, well, they didn't then come back to the keyboard controller and make it a super fun time.
No.
Do you remember what I rated Taz? Because Asterix is the exact same game. I think I gave it a B or a C. I'm going to give it a high C because it is very confusing that they decided to rebrand it over there. As we learned in our chat, people did watch Looney Tunes in Europe. They didn't need to rebrand it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Especially when then Obelix came out here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I don't know
Which
why.
is like, that makes even less sense then.
Yes.
So, it's a C. It's Taz. Which was a game that I had issues with anyway.
I'm pretty sure I gave it a B because I saw it as it was a pretty fun game. But yeah, it's a retread. I mean, so it's the same thing, just rebranded. So we don't probably need to spend a lot of time on it.
We'll now spend 40 minutes talking about Asterix.
Yes. Go ahead.
No, in all reality, there's not anything else to say.
Right.
If you like Taz, you'll like this. If you didn't, you won't.
Right.
There's a removed Easter egg is, I think, the only thing that makes it kind of an inferior
Which we
version.
didn't see the
We never
Easter egg.
saw that, but, you know.
I would say comparing the two, Obelix was a much better game, though.
Obelix was actually kind of cool.
It had a lot of stuff going on.
But Alpha Beam with Ernie.
Okay. So now we're into the educational games.
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah.
We've got Video Cube kind of breaking up some of them, but Alpha Beam with Ernie was neat. Seemed, it was for kids and it was simple, but to be honest, the graphics were really good.
They actually did a good job on the graphics on these games, I gotta say. I think the biggest issue I had was the fact that you use the keyboard controller, which is actually they repackaged the keyboard controller
as the kids controller,
or whatever, children's controller, and really it was up, down, left, right, and then I guess like some numbers or something on it.
Occasionally, yeah.
But this is kind of another thing where just use the joystick.
It didn't need this, yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of separating those two. It was kind of interesting for these because starting off like playing the we're used to, I think in general, games that are like the default is the standard difficulty, right? And then you go into options and you either reduce or increase the difficulty.
Yeah.
On these games, and for good reason, I see that there's a good reason for this, but what was interesting on these games is the first levels were like really super simple. And then, as you get further up in the hardness levels, then it is actually more challenging. Not maybe necessarily with Alpha Beam, but like some of the other ones, it's like, okay, so they actually have to where it's like if you gave this to your kid, and they don't know anything about video games, they could probably figure it out, and especially at the first levels, and actually have fun with it.
Yeah. I would say that of a lot of these. Alpha Beam, I think, is probably the least of them that we played, to be honest.
Right.
But it was still solid in its visual representation.
It's hard to rank these because it's like, I kind of feel like these are almost on a different level because we're talking about educational games, so you can't really kind of rank them, on how fun it is because that's kind of... It's really dependent on that. I'm just gonna put it in B though. I think that what they set out to do to introduce the letters and all that to kids, I thought was cool.
It was solid, yeah.
And again, the graphics that they put in there, it was really like gradients and stuff. It was neat.
Next, we've got Video Cube. I'm gonna give that one an A. watching you play it and kind of, interact with it.
You need the manual. You really need to know what's going on, because when
do.
I first played it, I was like, I don't understand what's going on.
I'm going to put it at high B, actually, because it does deeply require the manual in a way where it's just, you won't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But once you do, it looked, and honestly, I was tempted to play a little myself, but, we had a lot of games to get through. But it just seemed addictive of the idea of like, this is a puzzle I want to solve.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, especially it's a lot of just memorizing the boards, because you have to because at first I thought it was, the way it was working, I thought it was like a Rubik's Cube, because this was rebranded as Rubik's Cube. It's nothing like a Rubik's Cube.
Not even remotely.
Yeah. I mean, I guess kind of a cube.
It has a cube. Yeah. It is and it has a guy named Hubie who was very in the manual, Hubie was like, squares are the best.
Yeah, it was very awkward. The writing on it was bad.
I didn't really need to do that.
But the idea of it is, it kind of almost reminded me of a 3D version of a sliding puzzle game.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt in some ways.
And you had to, minimizing. See, the deal is you minimize the number of moves you make. And one of the things is, the thing I didn't understand at the first is you changed to the color of the thing you just picked up,
and then you
can't walk on that. And it was very an interesting twist. Like, it wouldn't have been obvious to me to put that kind of restriction in, but I think that really is kind of what made it a lot harder and a lot more challenging to try to play, because it was again, at the beginning I was like, well, what are we doing here? And it was like, reading the manual, was like, okay.
Yep.
It became a lot.
It was genuinely
more
challenging in a way that was cool.
I actually really liked it. Where I would put it though, definitely in the A range for me. That it was a good experience, and
just realizing though that if for whatever reason we didn't have access to the manual, it wouldn't have been a good time.
Yeah, that's true. But you know what is a good time is watching our videos, and if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. We really appreciate it. Yeah. Anyway, let's go to the next one.
We got Big Bird's Egg Catch. That's another one. I'm gonna put that actually pretty high into B.
I actually really liked the higher levels. Yeah, it was kind of neat, because at the beginning it was just like this shit dropped straight down. Like, really?
But it sets an expectation of what you need to do, and then it gets actually more difficult.
Once you go and you have to hit this game select to be able to go to those. It doesn't just automatically.
Sure, but once you know to do that, it actually makes a difference, and I think that's really cool.
I think I actually missed the egg a couple of times.
Yeah,
it was actually okay. So, but
and they had golden eggs, which
I don't know what that
they
did
added
for you.
more points.
Yeah, I guess.
So it was just cool.
Yeah,
I thought that was fun.
Again, the graphics. They did a couple things on these that was neat. They had these little interlude screens. That was kind of neat. It was like after you finished it, then you saw the game of a video, little animation of like Big Bird doing things and Ernie doing things, all these different little animations, which I think really helps with the integration of going, yes, you are playing Big Bird, and now you get to see Big Bird do a thing. I think that can be lost a lot of times with the sprite, which is small, and you don't really get to have a good idea of what they actually are. And funny enough, with Big Bird, somebody on the stream had mentioned that their kid actually saw. He's like, "Hey, I played that game," and it's just like, So I think that might have been actually kind of funny. It's like, what? There's people playing games that I play.
I'm gonna put Cookie Monster up in that same range. That one was kind of fun. You went around, picked up the cookies.
I thought it was interesting.
Different modes.
Yeah.
Also, some you're Cookie Monster just doing it without any other obstacles, but sometimes Cookie Monster is almost competing against you for the cookies. Yeah. And it added enough of a wrinkle that it's like, that's actually kind of fun for a children's game.
I agree. I think again, all of these I thought they did really well with. I think that it was just something that they I know they wanted to do something more educational for the kids, for kids. And
the thing is here, the difference between these and this is insane. Between the Sesame Street ones and Basic Math, because those games made me enjoy it, and Basic Math was dumb and bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think no.
No, you already moved.
Oh, yeah.
So
okay,
I'm on to Crazy Climber.
Okay.
Which I'm giving an A.
Okay.
Because I didn't want to stop playing when you told me it was time to stop.
I thought it was interesting, the movement. I was thinking, playing a game like that, you think, well, you push up, you go up.
No, nope, you go.
It's like,
you basically put hands and then pull.
Yeah, it's like hands and feet.
Was oddly intuitive once you got into a flow.
You can actually, I think you can go diagonals, and it does things too.
Sure,
so it's actually. Cool. They really kind of captured like the movement of this character with the joystick. It was
in a way that
neat.
A lot haven't in my time playing games. It's the sort of game where I was really mesmerized by its simplicity, but its execution was incredible.
To be honest, let's see. So we never finished it. I'm gonna definitely give it an A. Now, whether it's better than Video Cube, I was really surprised with Video Cube.
Video Cube was a sort of sleeper. I didn't expect it to be much.
Both of these
Anytime
games,
they throw a video into one of these games, to be honest, I'm like, oh, this is gonna suck.
Yeah, exactly. Both of these games, I believe, were only available through the Atari Club to be able to mail it for them. Quadrun, I believe, was another one of them. So they're very rare. You will not
don't come across a lot.
You won't see it in the wild. It's really, really hard to come by.
But next we've got Donald Duck's Speedboat, which.
So this was not part of the CCW ones.
No, this was just a Disney game that got canceled at the 11th hour for reasons unknown.
Yeah, it was not actually released, but they actually released screenshots, and they released there might be box art.
Very rare prototype cartridges out there, and it may have been briefly sold in Brazil.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's weird. As far as the game goes, I thought it was okay. I thought it was kind of fun going around all the obstacles.
I will say the one thing that is it could be a detriment, but is also in some ways kind of cool of it, was that the track was the exact same every time, at least for each variation. Sure. So you could really learn it, and you could actually start to
speed run it,
or perfect your skill with it in a way that I thought was kind of neat.
Right.
So I'm going to give it some credence for that.
Right. I thought it was, I don't think it was as good as the CCW titles.
No, I definitely don't think that.
I'm going to probably give it a high C. I thought it was cool, but it's not really something that I would really need to play again. I mean, obviously, it's like the CCW titles, probably not going to be playing those again, but just kind of ranked those kind of versus those. It was kind of lesser than to me. It was neat. I mean, the fact that it was Donald Duck was cool. But if you compare it to say the Sorcerer's Apprentice game,
not nearly as good as that one.
That was way better. So and then another one of the Disney titles. There was actually another one. I think Snow White was another one.
Yeah, they got lost.
Yeah, something like that. So.
And as far as it goes, just to put them in the pack here, Oscar, that game was kind of neat. The fact that you had to select the number and thusly, pick how many things are there. Then you would take that down and be like, yes, that's right. And then you would go back and adding in obstacles, Wormy being the timer. It had a lot of character and a lot of style to it. I thought they did pretty good.
So here's a question. So these 4 games use keep the kids controller.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, we've talked about the fact that they really didn't need the kids' controller.
Not one singular one of them needed the kids' controller.
But with the aspect of, I'm going to put it above Alpha Beam, with the context of this is being for a kid, and maybe you don't want them to break your controller and you want them to have their own controller, Do you think that it's more justified to have the keyboard or the kids controller more than the keyboard controller? Because they're essentially the same thing.
Sure.
Except the kid controller is more kid-friendly, better colors, and less buttons on it.
To be honest with you, I think the kid controller could have just been a slightly different Atari controller, though, even then. Like, you can make them, a little bit cheaper, maybe a little bit smaller, a little bit more durable or something, so that there's, you can make it for kids. I don't think turning the keyboard controller into the kid controller was necessarily it's understandable because kids can do that kind of stuff, but I also think it was equally unnecessary in that way. You know what I mean?
So instead of a kid's controller that was a keyboard, more like a kid's joystick.
Yeah. If you were gonna do something like that, I think that's a better way to do it.
I know what you do. You make a joystick and then you put 2 buttons on it. Make it the kids controller, and then that becomes the de facto standard for going forward.
Yeah.
And so we all use kids controllers.
And then we're all kids in heart. It's beautiful.
It would just be funny. It's like, it has 2 buttons on it, so I don't care what it looks like.
Yeah.
There's this bright yellow, thing.
Sure, why not?
All these primary colors, but it's like, hey, it's got 2 buttons on it, so we're good to go. Anyway. So the screenshot or the cover we have for the next game is a little odd.
It's
a prototype, but it's Atari goes better with Coke, I think is what it actually says on that.
And it is essentially...
So it's Pepsi Invaders.
Yeah, Pepsi Invaders, which is Space Invaders, but Coke shoots at Pepsi.
Yeah. It's a very, very odd bit of marketing tie-in stuff.
I'm going to put it at a high B.
Yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong. It's Space Invaders.
It is just Space... It's literally Source Space Invaders.
Yes.
The graphics were fun, though. The fact was, it was actually an interesting way to play Space Invaders, because
the timer.
It had timer and no lives. So truly, your score was limited by time, so you had to, pick better moves, and not
It's a different way to play the game.
Which is kind of cool. It's not better than Space Invaders.
No, but it's not...
It's a worthy addition.
Yeah, that is something to keep in mind, is that, yes, it is a hack, basically, of Space Invaders, but with the timer on it...
It adds a unique wrinkle that I don't even know was the intention in many ways.
Well, the fact that, one of the things I've never really cared for in Space Invaders is the fact that you have 2 different ways to die. You have the ability, it's like you have your lives, but they're going to come down, and when they land, you're done. That's it.
Yep.
And one of the things is that, when you get further into the game, it's really easy to because they start really close to the bottom, and if you're not really fast to get those bottom ones, you're done, and it's super easy to lose at that.
And frustrating.
Yeah, very frustrating. Where the timer is interesting. So we were asking why did they put a timer in, and somebody mentioned in the chat that one of the reasons is I think they thought, I don't know if it was exact, but that it was meant to be kind of a kiosk mode, and the idea of having multiple people to be able to come up and play for 3 minutes. That's a great time amount. It's like you get a good idea of how to play this, move on. It's like, let someone else play. Because here's the deal, Space Invaders, if you're good, you can sit there for a really, really long time.
Yeah, and tens of minutes.
And that would be a problem if people are waiting behind it. So.
And even if that's not the case, I just think it's a unique way to play that game, too.
Yeah. See, for me, it's still Space Invaders. Man. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with probably a high B.
Yeah, that's...
It was good. I don't know what else they would do. It was just an odd concept to me of having it.
It's a fun... I like fun tie-ins.
Yeah,
but
it was definitely interesting.
Yeah, so basic programming is hard to rank because it's still not something we've technically played.
It's not a game.
It's not, and so I almost want to give it its own category of...
I thought about making a basic programming category.
You
just
add a...
You could...
Here, let me add a row below.
There you go. You got doing it on the fly.
Doing it on the fly.
So which is better, basic math or basic programming?
I am gonna say, did I spell that right?
Yes.
2 M's? Cool. I'm gonna put it as black because it's not bad.
Okay.
It's not a bad thing. It's just at a row below. What's happening?
You're messing with the thing, and it doesn't like to be messed with.
Oh.
Yeah, it's...
Well,
it's
I've
funky.
messed everything up now.
Yes.
I'm gonna delete these 2 rows. Now I don't have basic math. I see what I did now, though. I see what I did. Keep with me, folks.
Basic...
Mash.
What's mash?
We're in basic mash.
I just put it in. Just put it in there. Just do it. There you
Basic mash. It's not bad. It's not basic math. It's basic mash.
go. Okay.
It's okay. It's whatever. It could be really fun if you're into that kind of thing, and if you took the time to get to know it.
Right.
But it just literally isn't a game. It's just not. It's not for the point of playing and having an enjoyable time. It's for being a tool to make some things and mess around.
Yeah.
It's not something that really is... It's not rankable with these things.
Yeah.
It's like trying to rank...
And A.
Yeah,
not
in many ways.
applicable.
In many ways, it's like trying to rank Python with the best PS2 games. How those things are not relevant or related to each other.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, as a kid, I always wanted to program. So for me, I remember seeing that in like the Sears Wish book and stuff, and be like, oh, that'd be cool. But I never got it, and I'm glad I never got it, because it'd be like, oh, you want to program?
Yeah.
Here you go. Yeah, it might have turned me off from it.
You might not have done
this.
programming.
Is for no, I don't want to do it. But thankfully I knew better. I knew I need a keyboard. Doing this with the stupid keyboard controller, it would be the equivalent of programming with what was it called? The old cell phones before.
Oh yeah,
what was that called?
I don't recall, but where you had to push the button multiple times.
Yeah, that kind of deal.
Yeah.
That's what the equivalent is. It's like, that's not gonna fly.
No, I saw the overlays and I thought that same thing.
Yeah,
actually.
it's just like no.
So basic programming. Not a game.
Yeah.
But if you like it, let us know.
And if you want to see us torture ourselves by writing a game.
Yeah.
So the problem is, okay, so there's only 128 bytes of RAM on the 2600. And those are needed for the game to run, the program to run. So the idea of making a program that fits in that RAM is difficult. A fool's errand. I mean, it's hard enough making a 2600 game.
Yeah. Let us know, though.
Yeah.
We'll make a game. We'll make basic programming in basic programming.
There you go. You go right ahead.
We'll just do that.
Yeah.
Pigs in Space, our last game for this
whole section.
This whole subsection.
This closes out
games.
Atari titles.
And I gotta say, no better game, I think, to finish it out, because that's an S for me.
Oh wow!
That game, all 3 modes, were, except the last one was tough.
Yeah.
The one where you're in the tank with the boomerang. But the other 2 were just really good versions of other games that ended up being really fun in the forms that they were doing, building scores going between multiple games with fun Muppet graphics that were actually really good.
Yeah.
That's
I really like the Gonzo graphics, like on the first level, but he's like on this flying saucer.
Yeah, it was just fun. It was just charming.
He kept spinning around.
It was charming beginning to end, and I have nothing but fun to say about it.
Oh, can I give it an S? I gotta give it an S.
Yeah,
fine. I'll give it to peer pressure. So what were the game names called in there?
So we had pasta something.
What was the first one called?
Oh, that was Chicken Invaders.
Chicken Invaders. Okay, and then the next one was pasta.
Which remember that?
Yeah.
But
pasta something.
Pasta. Yes, it was. It's another pun on a different name.
Right.
I'm trying to remember all what it was.
Well,
but
Chicken Invaders.
Chicken Invaders.
Chicken Invaders. So
Cannot forget Chicken Invaders.
So we actually mentioned this during the stream. But one of the things that I've got recently is I got these stickers, and we'll have to show.
We'll put
a
up a higher
version
res here in the center.
But it says, "Don't watch TV tonight. Play it." It's for the 2600, a video computer system, and funny enough, it actually has the keyboard controllers on it. Yeah, paddles. Keyboard controllers
Cut
and
that
the
part
twisted.
out.
Yeah, just trim them off.
Trim them off.
But what we wanted to do is, if you've made it this far in the video, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, genuinely.
Obviously. And we actually have a few of these that we'd like to give out. So if you would like to get your own sticker of this, leave a comment below with
Chicken Invaders. Yeah.
Yes. Leave a comment below with Chicken Invaders, and we'll reach out and we'll send you a sticker.
Spelled Chicken Vader, as in the animal and the Darth. Smash them togetger, and that's how you spell it. Chicken Vader.
I don't think I'm gonna it's like you have to.
We're doing spell check.
Spell check. It must be perfect.
Yeah.
No. Basically, we love doing these streams each week, and it'd be cool to be able to give back something to our viewers. So yeah, definitely leave a comment with Chicken Vader in Chicken Vaders or Chicken Vader?
Chicken Vaders, because it's
with an S.
Yes, with an S.
So it's like Space Invaders, but Chicken Vaders.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we've belabored that point now.
Yes.
Okay, so this closes out our Atari releases.
Yep, for the 2600.
For the 2600. Next time, I think we're going to do Activision games.
I'm excited. I've heard nothing but good things about the Activision of this time.
Yes, so there's 30 some odd games. So we'll be splitting that up into 3 videos, 3 different streams and these videos. Then we're going to do a Magic, I think. And then we're going to be basically going through the different, at least most popular third-party.
The most popular, second string third party games.
And there's quite a number of them. Parker Brothers is another one. We're definitely going to need to do one of the Arcadia, Starpath, stuff like that. It's going to be interesting. Now, one of the things we're going to need to do when we do that is we're going to need to back up a little bit and go, okay, so these games came out in this context of what are the other ones that came out in the Atari stuff.
Sure.
Now, granted, Atari had a head start because they didn't have any third-party stuff, I think, until 1980. I think Activision was the first one to come. We'll have to see next week when we do that stream, and see if that's going to be the case. If it's
we'll compare them amongst their peers, of course.
I truly feel though when we get there, I think you're going to be blown away with the quality of those games.
I'm excited to see it because it's been a ride, but my Atari education so far has been enjoyable.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, you played every Atari 2600 game.
That's good. Yeah, what a wild thing.
Put that on your resume. Yeah, exactly.
Played all 2600 games.
Yes, exactly.
Wow. He's incredible.
All right,
give him the nuke codes.
Yeah. The nuclear football, there you go.
Yeah, give it to me.
Give it to you.
I've played the old games. I know the old scripts.
Alrighty, guys. So, in any case, we will see you in the next adventure. Take care.
Thanks
for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of this kind of content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell. I post new videos all the time and I wouldn't want you to miss any. If you'd like to see more of this series, be sure to click up here. And if you'd like to see something else, be sure to click up here.